I want to welcome you to today's webinar presentation, the ATA Mentoring Program. This is a real treat for me because I've been involved with the mentoring program since 2001. I want to thank everyone for attending, and yes, my name is Mary David, and I am the webinar coordinator at ATA, so you may run into me from time to time if you attend lots of webinars, and I hope you do. Just a brief intro to today's webinar. As I mentioned, I've been involved since 2001, and some of you may know that the program has been around that long. What you might not know is that the program was restructured from top to bottom in 2012, and it's today's speakers who did that. They had a vision and they followed through, and it's made it so much more efficient for you guys. While we're waiting for a few more attendees to join the webinar, I have a couple of housekeeping notes to mention. First, the program is being recorded, and all of you will receive a link to the recording after the webinar. The webinar is scheduled for 60 minutes. Occasionally, a presentation runs a bit longer. If you need to leave right on time, please do, and remember, you'll be able to catch up with what you missed when you view the recording later. All attendees are muted. This is really the only way we can keep the presentation moving smoothly. Even during our rehearsals with 4 people on the line, you can't believe how chaotic it gets. But we do want you to ask questions, so you can do that throughout the webinar. Just type them into the question box, which should be on your screen, and we'll have a question and answer session at the end of the webinar. More than likely, we won't get time for all of your questions, but we'll get to as many as we have time for. A handout for today's presentation will be emailed to you, or you may have already received it. I'm not sure if they sent it out first or after, but it's on the ATA website now. If you go to that mentoring page, you will find it. And I just looked at it this morning, and it's really fantastic. And with that, I would like to turn the webinar over to today's presenters, Suzanne, Eric, and Paula.
Good morning. This is Suzanne Van Isle. This webinar really has one very specific goal for us, and that is we want to show you why we are so excited to have the mentors, how much we appreciate their work, and how much we care about the mentees. I'm hoping that this orientation will show this, and so here are the details. Oops, this isn't moving. Sorry guys, for some reason this isn't moving where it should be. I can't move the slides.
Susan, click on your on the interface and then try again.
Here we go. Okay, sorry, we'll try this again. There we are. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, here are the basics. The mentorships last for 1 year, and we start in April, most likely April 15th. That's what we did in 2012, and that worked well for everybody. Mentors and mentees forge their own relationships. That means we will make introductions, and then each pair takes it from there. They will find their own way to meet and set goals and so on, and we will be very much hands-off in that. Each pair can plan to spend 1 to 2 hours per month with their counterpart. In my own experience as a mentor, I can say that in the beginning it's more like 2 hours, and then after a few months the basics are set, and then the time goes down a little bit, and towards the end it's not a whole lot of time anymore unless something happens that is important for the mentee and more questions come up, and that can happen. So the mentoring committee manages the program, but we are not really going to be involved in people's activities. So that means we are here for questions, for concerns, but we are not going to get involved. I like to think of it as mothering but not smothering. How are the pairs matched? We match the pairs based on the answers both of them provide on the application materials. We ask everybody to give some background information about them. That's very, very helpful because it will enable us to get to know the person better and then see who matches best this particular profile. So if you are a legal translator with a very high interest in patents, for example, we will take that into consideration if we find someone, if that is the area of expertise you want to learn more about. If you want to learn more about CAT tools, we will see if we can find you an expert on CAT tools. So we are not spending a lot of time on languages, but we will pay very close attention to who you are and what your interests are. We will look at your ATA directory profile. We do that for mentors and mentees. And sometimes we will know you from your ATA activities. For example, if you are a member of the business practices list, chances are that we have seen your contributions, and that those will be very helpful in just keeping track of what we want and what we need and what we look at. And then, of course, some of you we've known, or some of you will come highly recommended, and so we'll use that. We consider the following: so the stated experience and goals of the mentee, the experience and strengths of the mentor, the personality from what we can determine in either talking with you or seeing your emails. The more you put into your application, the better, because then we'll really have a good sense of who you are and what you are hoping to get out of this. And we pay very, very close attention to that. As you can see on the slide, matching language pairs is not a criterion. In fact, in this year, 2012, in the class of 2012, we probably had 3 pairs who worked in the same language pairs. All others had different ones, and that worked very well. You can also come as a ready-made pair. So what is that? If you want to be a mentee and you have someone in mind who would be a wonderful mentor to you, for you, then either contact this person yourself or come to me or come to us, and we will contact this person and see if you can become basically a ready-made pair. That means we will not need to pair you up because you have someone in mind already, or you've already spoken to this person. And even though we have a limit of 30 pairs right now, we will welcome ready-made pairs in whatever number that we get. So last year we had 30 pairs that we matched and 1 ready-made pair, and so we actually ended up with 31 pairs, even though we had set a limit for 30. So if you have someone in mind, or you're already talking with someone about mentoring, then just send us an email to mentoring@atanet.org and let us know, and we'll verify that both of you are willing and able to join this program. And basically that's all the work we need to do, and so we'll be happy to have you. In fact, for 2013 we already have 1 ready-made pair that has applied, and we're looking forward to working with them. So what does the program offer? It offers mentoring in the business side of translation and interpreting. So that means, investigating reputations before you do the work, finding out how to do that, evaluating contracts. Now, of course, we're not lawyers, but each mentor has signed countless contracts, and so they have a pretty good idea of where we are and what can be expected from a good contract, and so that is what they can help a mentee look at and navigate. They can help with setting and negotiating rates. Now, ATA does not talk about rates, but a mentor can help a mentee understand what is fair and how to negotiate rates, and potentially even setting higher rates or raising rates. Sometimes it's difficult to understand for a newcomer to the profession how the assignments are defined, and so then if something is unclear, the mentee can ask the mentor, what does this mean? What is expected of me? Is this reasonable? And so on. Saying no is a big deal, especially when you first start out, and so that's something that each mentor and mentee pair last year has dealt with. And then there may be the occasional negative feedback, and so the big question is, how do we deal with that? So what does the program not offer? Translation or interpreting, instruction or tutoring. We will not be able to help with that. You are expected to be an accomplished translator or interpreter, and so we'll help you with the business side, but there's no tutoring. The same with passing the certification exam. Not all mentors are certified, and we are not expecting them to be, and so we will not be able to help you get certified. And then prescribed goals for all mentees to pursue, no. We do not give you an assignment and homework and all that. We do not keep track of how many of your goals you reach or pursue. This is something that each pair works out on their own. So what do we mean by not an internship? Mentees do not expect mentors, cannot expect mentors to introduce themselves, to introduce them to potential clients, to edit or proofread your translations. That is not going to happen, and it can't, especially if they don't work in the same language pairs anyway, or if they have completely different areas of expertise. Now, the mentors cannot expect their mentees to pre-translate their assignments or to run virtual errands for them. So this is not a cheap way of getting labor or support or help. What does the mentor-mentee relationship pursue? Here we go. The mentee sets the goals. So we've given a few examples: getting a website up and running, identifying specializations, devising a project workflow from client inquiry to sending the bill, so the whole 9 yards, figuring out a signature block for your emails. Sometimes they're too long, sometimes they're too short, they don't give information that's helpful, or it's so long that it is this big blob at the end of each email. That's not helpful, and so some of this is being some of this can be talked about, and it will be very helpful to have a professional looking email signature block. So yes, the mentee sets the goals. That means, oh, here we go, I'm sorry. each pair negotiates their own relationship. So how will you communicate? How many goals will you set? Will you come together once a month or once a week or on an as needed basis? How will you measure your success? We expect the mentees to have clear goals, but that doesn't mean that the mentors are completely hands-off unless the mentee says something. We do expect the mentors to check in regularly with the mentees, just find out how they're doing. A dialogue will bring out some issues that a mentee will not even be aware of, and there may be no way for the mentee to ever know it until they talk with the mentor about this. And so it's important, very important, for the mentor to be a little bit hands-on as well. That doesn't mean, you know, we need to have mentors tell mentees what to do, but the dialogue needs to be both ways. And then, very important, the question, how do we deal with changing things if something isn't working? Very important between them. I'm going to skip the poll and we'll do it at the end so that we can be sure that we get all the information through. So the benefit for mentees: your mentor will be chosen to fit your profile and the questionnaire responses. You set the agenda based on your interests and also on your needs. You get help in understanding and navigating the business side of translation. It's 1 to 2 hours. It can be a little bit more, sometimes it may be less, so this isn't set in stone. You meet and make friends with other mentees and gain an immediate foothold in the ATA community. We created this class format so that you would immediately be able to meet new people of other languages and even of your own, and we will explain later how that is done. But we felt it was very important to be able to have an immediate community and really a group to think, to bounce ideas off of and discuss things and so on. So that's been really helpful. What are the benefits for mentors? Your mentee will be chosen to fit your profile again. Your strengths will be taken into account very much. So whatever you're passionate about, we will let you teach, and the more passionate you are about something, I think the more wonderful it's going to be be taught by you. You will help a novice, or maybe not even a novice, but a novice translator, but someone who just wants to broaden their base. That'll be really helpful for them, and so I think all of us mentors will get great satisfaction out of helping these people, the person that we are assigned. We are challenged as mentors because mentees ask questions and advice about things that we may not even think about, that we've always done a certain way and we have no idea why we should change them. And the question may make changes obvious. We can put our skills and knowledge to work. And yes, and some of us may discover talents we didn't even realize we had. We expand our professional network, and of course, we gain 2 continuing education points for the year. So each class has its own Yahoo group. Actually 2, one for mentees and mentors, and then one only for mentors. It's helpful for the mentors to have an idea board, basically, to talk about things that just stump us. And then we have one where mentees and mentors exchange ideas, and that's been really helpful. We've had wonderful discussions there. We can also trade ideas there and talk about things that didn't go so well. How can I prepare? Some of these questions have come up on these discussion boards. How can I prepare for the ATA annual conference? What do I bring? What do I not bring? An agency sent me a contract with a clause that said X. Is that reasonable? How do I respond if it isn't? I want to raise my rates. What do I say? How do I do this? Someone wants a large free sample translation. Is that reasonable? Or, oh my God, I don't know how to stay organized. Can you please help me? Here's the other poll. I'm going to skip that as well. We'll have it at the end. So are you ready to be a mentor? You are going to be a teacher, sort of. It's very important to understand that the mentee has his or her own goals, but it is important to kind of steer them a little bit. I was talking with one mentor, and I said to her, I would like all mentors to be a little bit loving. That sounds maybe a little strange, but you know, you are going to be caring about this person and show that you care. You spend 1 to 2 hours per month, so it's not an unreasonable amount of time. Just follow the mentee's lead, but make sure they stay on track. But also set your own boundaries. Know when too much is too much, and explain that you don't have time if someone wants more than 2 hours from you. How do I become a mentor? You must be an ATA member in good standing. Update your listing in the online directory. It's very difficult for us to find you if your phone number on the directory is out of date, or if your email address is not current. And if I can't find you, clients can't either, so it is important to have that. Complete the mentor statement worksheet and then email it to mentoring@atanet.org by March 15th. So how do I become a mentee? This will now be handed over to Eric.
Okay, Suzanne, thank you. How can I become a mentee? Well, you have to be an ATA member in good standing. And if you are a student member, you should have sufficiently honed your linguistic skills to become a full-fledged translator. So how can you be sure that you are ready to be a mentee? Well, first you have to consider how well you understand your source language. I think there are a lot of misconceptions about our profession. I think we generally say, do you speak French, when we really mean, do you understand French, or do you know French? So to be, let's say, a French to English translator, you don't need to speak French well, but you do need to understand French, preferably in a field, a specific field, so that that can be your basis for your translator career. And then as you gain more experience, you can go into more fields. So at this point, you really have to ask yourself, how confident am I about my comprehension of my source language? And also you have to ask yourself your ability to write in your target language, because you are going to be asked to translate text, proofread text, or revise text. So you have to know how to write a good sentence, what a beautiful sentence looks like, and how to create one. So those are the two things you really have to ask yourself at this point. And honestly, Next slide, please. And you must also update your listing on your ATA directory, because that's how your clients find you. So that's kind of important. And you also have to complete this worksheet, the ATA mentee statement worksheet, where we ask you certain questions and you just have to answer them, but also a short essay describing your experience, your background, and so on. Next slide, please. And what do you want to write in your in the short essay? Tell us about your background. Tell us about your linguistic abilities. If you want to be an Italian to English translator, you tell us about your Italian connection, so we know about you, things like that. And also your translation and interpretation experience, whether you have in-house experience or you have been a freelancer, and what you hope to gain from the ATA membership. Mentorship. And you can email your worksheet to this address, mentoring@atanet.org, by about March 15th. And I think the next slide is important, and that belongs to Suzanne. Suzanne?
Thank you. Are you ready to be a mentee? We have seen all kinds of interesting developments in this one. Be sure that this profession is for you. That also means you make sure you have the temperament, for example, to be working from home if you are a freelancer. Working from home can be very lonely, and some people find it unbearable. If you are in a position where you need to suddenly make money quickly, most likely becoming a freelance translator is not a good idea right away, because it takes a while to build up a practice. And so if you lose your job, or if you just lost your job and you're expected to make $80,000 a year, you need to be aware of the fact that it may take several years to get to a good income of whatever good is. I mean, the 80,000 is a number that I just pulled out of the hat, but it takes years. And so if you are under pressure to make money quickly, this may not be the best time to become a mentee. So, language skills. Once you know that you have the temperament, you love the work, you have the time to build up a practice, make sure that you have the necessary language skills. And Eric said a few words about that. Now, a few people will be expected to prove to the committee that the language skills are sufficient. That means they will be asked to send a sample translation to an agency member of ATA, and and then this agency will evaluate the sample translations. It will cost the mentee a little bit of money, probably somewhere around $100. We're not sure exactly, but it will be something that needs to be paid, and the candidate will be expected to cover this expense. Last year we didn't have a candidate who needed to do this, but if we ask it this year, it will be for very good reason. It will mean that we are not 100% sure that the person's language skills are sufficient. Again, mentees should not expect their mentors to check their work. If your language is Chinese and your mentor speaks French, then for obvious reasons there won't be a match that that your mentor can help you with. Now, have clear and actionable short-term goals. Be clear what you want to learn in this particular year, but also have a sense of your goals a little bit ahead, so that you can start laying the foundation for reaching longer-term goals, and intend to follow through. Make sure that you really work on whatever your mentor suggests to you. Your business experience, be committed to abide by the ATA Code of Ethics and Professional Practice. It's very important that every member of ATA does that, obviously, but we expect a high standard of mentors and mentees. Have the necessary equipment and software needed for business operations. So, you know, if you're not internet savvy enough to do good research, if you don't have the necessary software to do the translations, if you don't have a spell checker for your language, stuff like that, that will hold you back. If you have some freelance experience, great. If not, that'll be fine. But make sure that you have some job experience so that you know what it's like to move in a professional setting, and know at least something about what you don't know. The more experience we have, the more we understand what we don't know. So sometimes a complete newcomer will be shocked to see how little they know. I speak from experience here. And so if you have a little bit of experience in this profession, it will really help you understand what you don't know and how to set your own goals. So what if you're not ready to be a mentee? Paula will talk about this now.
Okay, so thanks, Suzanne. What if after seeing all of these seeing these slides and listening to Suzanne, you think that you're not quite ready to join the program this coming year? We've made a handout that will give you some ideas, and I'll just touch on a few of those things that are mentioned in the handout. First, as Eric spoke about, you need to make sure that your language skills are up to par, and he also mentioned that that includes not only source language comprehension and target language production, but also field-specific knowledge. That means terminology, style, and register. The handout has a few ideas about how you can improve not only your language, of course that'll be different for each person, but also where you might go to increase your field-specific knowledge and also your knowledge of style in various disciplines. Next slide. So in terms of improving your business skills, we talk about knowing what you don't know. Now, how are you going to start? The ATA website has a great resource for people coming into the profession to get a sense of what it actually involves, and that's found on the continuing education and certification pages. There's something called a self-evaluation questionnaire for both translators and interpreters, and it's a 3-page document, at least it is for the translators, that goes through quite a few of the things that you really do have to know to be working as a freelancer in this business. It starts from professional preparation to the product and services you're going to offer, how to maintain professional relationships, and professional demeanor. So that's a really great place to start checking off what you know, what you don't know. For people who are even ready to go into the program, it may help mentees actually set up some of their short-term goals. Next we have establishing a consistent business persona. That's on the next slide. And Suzanne already talked about email signatures. Here we're listing, talking about LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. Definitely we don't have time to talk about all of that now. But one thing to consider when you're setting up your profiles, creating your email signatures, even writing a cover letter when you send your resume, is what you can offer the people you're writing to, what you can offer your LinkedIn connections, not so much what you want from them. I think that's a really great place to start when you're thinking about how you're going to present yourself, is what your skills are, what you have to offer, not simply that you need a job. I'm going to skip now ahead to the next slide, because all of this is really in the handout. There's lots of ideas there. As far as your goals and follow-through, we already talked about how you might think of some of your short-term goals. In terms of long-term goals, I'm a big fan of imagining the future and imagining, for instance, my ideal client, my ideal workday, and even my ideal job. And then you could start to set, to make steps to achieve those goals. It's very hard to just think, I want to be a successful translator. What you really need to do is to imagine some things with a little more specificity, and then you can start looking for those clients. You can search online maybe for where are they hanging out, what associations do your clients belong to. Perhaps you can join one of those. So that's a place to start in terms of brainstorming. Of course, the articulating those goals. And probably the best thing you can do right away is to get more involved in ATA if you're not already involved, to join your language-specific division or perhaps your field-specific division. I'm a member of the Slavic Languages Division, the Science and Technology Division, the Medical Division. I'm not super involved in all of those, but that's where I'm meeting my colleagues. I'm learning from them by their questions and answers on online forums. And when I can answer a question, I try to, because then they know that I know something. And they may think of me when somebody asks them who knows about that topic. If you have a local group where you can actually meet people in person, that's another really great way to start meeting people and exchanging information in person. You may even find an informal mentor that way, or you may find that you have a lot more to offer than you think, and you may become an informal mentor to other people. And I think that's about it. We want to make sure to leave time for your questions. So on the next slide, Suzanne, Eric, and I have jotted down a few things that we might think are interesting to you to know about us, our language pairs, and what types of subjects we work in. And I think now we'll turn the microphone over to Mary to ask us some of your questions.
And that means you need to send in your questions. So far I've answered everybody just one-on-one, but really would like to get some questions. Let's see. I'm currently an ATA certified freelance translator. Is it appropriate as a prospective mentee to approach ATA certified members with mentoring requests without a prior acquaintanceship?
I would say yes. If you are feeling a little bit shy about it, come to us with the person you have in mind, and we will make introductions. We did that last year. Someone said she would really like to work with a particular translator who was not in her own language field, and she didn't know him personally, but she had seen his profile and had seen his contributions to the Yahoo lists. And so I called him and I said, so-and-so would like to work with you in a mentor-mentee relationship. Would you be willing? And he said yes. And they have, as far as I can tell, they have had a very, very positive relationship. So yes, if you feel you want to work with a particular person, either approach them directly or ask us for help. We'll be happy to do it.
Okay, I have another question. It's from Julie. She says that she's been working as a freelance translator for 2.5 years now, but she would still very much appreciate having a mentor. Is she still eligible even though she's not a new translator, so to say?
Oh, actually, you can be a 15 or 20-year veteran of the profession. If there's something new you'd like to learn, then we'd love to have you. In fact, this year we have someone who moved from interpreting to translation, and so she was a mentor in interpreting and a mentee in translation. That's completely fine, and we have several certified mentees who have, several years of experience. So I don't think anybody is too old or too experienced to learn something new.
Okay, I think you've sort of covered this one in the webinar, but it bears repeating. Do the mentor and mentee need to be in the same language pair?
No. In fact, we really sort of prefer that they're not, because we're focusing on the business side of translation, and very quickly, if if both of you do English into Russian, very quickly you start talking about language-specific items and not about business-specific items. So I think it's pretty much become a distraction for many people to work in the same field. And then the mentor may feel obligated to look at a few translations and whatever, and it just really distracts. So one thing we are going to look at is are the pairs working in languages of greater or lesser diffusion. We have found this year that it is probably more helpful to have the languages of lesser diffusion talk to each other because they have specific issues and challenges that the languages of greater diffusion don't have. And one of them is that there isn't a whole lot of business in Albanian, for example. So if someone starts out as an Albanian translator, someone who's maybe doing Bulgarian will have really wonderful ideas about how to broaden the base. Whereas someone who does Chinese and just has too much work, for example, that person as a mentor will not be able to really relate as much. And so that's the big takeaway from this year that we will introduce next year. We'll pay attention to that, but not to language pairs, to matching language pairs as a whole.
Okay, thank you very much. Question from Lexi. She was wondering in what situations would mentees be asked to provide the extra translation test that you talked about earlier?
If we find that someone really doesn't have a whole lot of experience in translation yet, maybe is a first or second, maybe a first-year student in a translation program at a university or something like that, or is really, has been wonderfully busy in the chemistry field, but hasn't done a whole lot of writing in French or whatever. We may ask that person to give us a sample translation just so that we know that this person is confident enough in the language skills to then move into the business side and really take whatever the mentor teaches them and run with it. This is going to be a very rare case, but we do want to include it to make sure that people are not completely shocked that this may come up. It's not because we want to exclude anybody. It is more that we want to make sure that that someone really is able to take whatever we're teaching them and run with it and benefit as much as possible from the program without being hampered by a lack of language skills.
Thanks. This is an interesting one because we keep coming back to the same language pair, different language pair. Lucille says that her language pair is really unique from cultural standpoint. She translates, I think it's Arabic into English. Their political norms, cultural. I guess her question is, can you make these exceptions based on that kind of requirement?
We can if we find a mentor who is willing to do it, and we may help try to find someone, but then we will ask the mentee or the potential mentee to do most of the legwork, because we cannot know every good translator in every language. That's just not possible. And so even though we do rely on references and suggestions from existing mentors, 11,000 members are 11,000 members. We can't know all of them. And even if the Arabic division is obviously smaller, it's going to be very difficult for us to gauge who's a really good mentor and who isn't. So if we can find a mentor who's willing to jump in that respect, that's great, but I cannot promise it.
Good. I think Paula wanted to add something.
Yes, I think there's something to consider with regard to that question is in terms of the cultural norms, if it's only related to the language, that is, if it's only related to how you express something in Arabic or in English, depending on how it's stated in the other language, that sort of falls into, I think, the language tutoring or, the language discussion, which you might be able to find better if you join the Arabic language division. If it has to do with, let's say, languages that the State Department is interested in, or how are you going to deal with those kinds of questions? How do you do security clearance and all? There might be other languages that have similar concerns, in which case you can be paired maybe with another language of interest, if you know what I mean. Someone who's working in Farsi or in even in Serbian and Croatian, the languages that I work in, you might want to try to find somebody who has security clearance or who's working with a particular client. I'm not sure, Suzanne, if you would agree with that, but that, for instance, if you can't find somebody in your exact language, we could try to think of the concerns that you're interested in.
Yes, I think that's a very good point.
Perfect. So I'll go ahead with the following questions. Would the program also work to create a mentoring relationship for a new business owner, for example, with two members of the TCD?
I don't see why not. We haven't seen this yet this year, but I think that would be a very exciting idea and possibility. I think actually this would be very, very exciting. I hadn't considered it, but I don't see why not.
Great. That sounds like an exciting idea as well. How do you judge the experience to be sufficient or not? I think this goes back to some of the questions that you ask yourself, but also how can I judge myself to be a mentor or a mentee, since we all need to learn?
Okay, I think that's two questions. When do we consider someone sufficiently capable? I think that's a little bit of a gut feeling. There was one case this year where we really weren't sure if the person knew enough, and so we found them someone who has experience with working with translators who are very new to the profession for various reasons. and we asked her if she would take this on, and she said yes. And they have been an amazing success. They've just really run with it, and the person turned out to know enough, and so it was no problem. But we considered it very, very carefully. When do you know? When are you ready to be a mentor? You know, I'm not sure how to answer that. I think if we called you and said we have this person here who wants to learn something about whatever your personal area of expertise is, and we specifically, she wants to learn X, Y, and Z, then you would know if you can teach that, yes or no. If you felt a little bit uneasy about it, you know, you might give it some thought for another year. We've talked with one person last year who said, I'm not really ready yet. I'll consider it for a year, and she's kept in touch, and I'm hoping that this year she'll say that she's ready. But if she'll need another year, we'll give it to her. It's completely fine. You know, some people are absolutely passionate about something and they can't wait to teach it, and some are a little bit, maybe a little bit more shy about it and don't realize how much they have to teach. And so then if we call them, they may say yes, even if they've never considered it. And then we have some people who have contacted us and said, I really, really want to be a mentor, and I have the following to offer. And of course, that's the easiest for us. It's wonderful to have someone come and say, I want to share this knowledge. But you know, we talk to all kinds of people, and we can be persuasive if we need to be.
I think Eric wanted to add something here.
Yes, and I also think that, you know, for a mentee, I think generally the mentee really just wants to run certain things with the, you know, just ask some questions, run these things by the mentor. So I think if a mentor has some years of experience, I think he or she already has the things that a mentee wants from the mentor. You know, we're just saying, you know, how do I deal with an agency inquiry? I think these are the things that you know, these are the experience you already have just by being a translator for a number of years.
Let me step in here and take the next question as well, because this deals with something that is ATA-wide, and it'll be interesting to see what the panelists think of this. We always get this question about divisions and how did divisions start and special interest groups. And I know Paula mentioned that she's a member of several divisions and the business practices listserv. Can you all, one at a time, I think we have a little time to address what a division means to you?
Sure, let me start then.
I can start.
Okay,
Oops.
Go ahead, Paula, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to start because my very first experience in ATA when I just joined, maybe a few months after I joined, I had it in my head that I needed to be certified. And the languages that I translate were not in the program. So I contacted ATA and asked about that, and they put me in touch with somebody in the Slavic Languages Division, and they totally took me under their wing. Not only did I get information on how to go about, you know, building interest to start the certification for instance, Croatian, but I got roped into editing a column in the Slav file. You know, I was suddenly on a minor committee to evaluate presentations for the conference. They really integrated me immediately, made me feel welcome, asked my opinion about things, tried to get me to rope other people into the division. It was you know, a great experience. I guess one of the more proactive groups to try to involve. There are so many languages involved that they really want to try to get languages other than Russian in that Slavic languages division. So they really just pretty much jumped on me for that. So that's my experience. It's great.
Suzanne, you want to
Okay.
talk a little bit about the German language division? I know that's been important for you.
Sure. Sure. The German language division is very active and really has been a wonderful place to ask questions, but also to just find a community. I had attended several conferences basically with a friend and had not met a whole lot of people. And I mean, prior to the German language division being created, and when that listserv was created, then all of a sudden my sense of community just exploded. And at the next conference, I felt like I had 15 new best friends that I hadn't had the year before because I hadn't really bothered to meet them. So they are a wonderful resource both personally and professionally, and I don't know how we ever lived without them.
I just want to bring up one more thing, because you mentioned the ATA annual conference and being sort of ready to meet people there because you'd already met them online. Can you explain a little bit more about the annual conference and what it could do for someone who's relatively new in translation and interpreting, or who's an old-timer?
Yes, of course. You know, first of all, you meet the colleagues that you work with. Almost all of us work in teams of some sort, and it's wonderful to be able to have a face with the name. But also, it's a great place to meet clients. You know, I had worked with many clients for years and years and years without ever having met them, and then I attended a conference and they happened to be there, and we met for a cup of coffee, or they may have a booth at the conference, and I walk by and say hello. And if they have a booth, invariably they will take pictures of you to take back to the colleagues. Oh, this is Suzanne. This is what she looks like. That's really very cool. And then you will, of course, now if you are on the mentoring committee, you will meet the other mentees and mentors. This year we had a table at the welcoming reception for the mentees and mentors to congregate, and several did, not all, but several did, and it was so amazing to meet them in person as well. So we have a lot of options at the conferences to meet and greet and expand our relationships. And then just one thing I want to say about my personal experience. Early on in my career, I had helped a colleague who was in a little bit of trouble. She had forgotten something, and I helped her with that. And to thank me for this, she took my hand at the conference and introduced me to every one of her clients. So, you know, if a really good client of mine is in need of someone, I may take a colleague by the hand as well and introduce them to this client. So, you know, new relationships are forged at the conferences much easier than they are by email.
Before we go on to some polls, I wanted to see if Eric had anything to add to that, because he's relatively new in this career or in the association.
Sure. I think I really enjoyed the ATN conferences. I went twice already. I just feel that the camaraderie is just exceptional. I would meet these people for the very first time, and you know, I felt like we were old friends, and that's what the ATA conference would provide you.
Okay, I think Maya's going to run a poll now.
Yes. Okay. Okay, you have to choose one of the three answers. I would like to be a mentor, mentee, or I think I could be either. So some of you are voting already. I will leave it open for a few more seconds to give all of you a chance. Okay. Just a few more seconds and I'm going to stop it now. Okay, these are the results. 14% of today's audience think they would like to be a mentor, 70% would like to be a mentee, and 16 think that could be either. So I will now launch the second one. Have you reviewed or updated your listing in the online ATA directory within the last 6 months? Okay, people are voting. We'll leave it open for a few more seconds since most of you have voted already. And okay, a few more, and I'm going to stop it now. And these are the results. 58% say yes, 36% haven't updated the listing in the last 6 months, and 5% have chosen the third answer, which is my what? Okay, Mary, over to you. You can share your screen now.
Okay, let me just close this out. I don't see my show. Can you make me presenter one more time? I'm not seeing it.
Yes. I can't actually. I would have to take it back. Just a second.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. I have just 3 things to update you on. The next webinar is Marion Greenfield. Some of you may know she's a former ATA president and also has been in the translating financial statements and bank paperwork and stock market paperwork. This has been her career, and she does work Spanish into English as well as, I think, Portuguese into English. She's offering this webinar. ATA is offering it, and I think it's going to be great. She frequently speaks at conferences and meetings around the world. So that's going to be February 20th at the same time, 12 noon Eastern Time. Also, we just announced our call for proposals for the next annual conference. Speaking at the conference, if you've really got something you've been doing that really works for you, or you've got some expertise in a special field, this is a great way to actually network and get people to understand that you are a person to contact. You're an expert in the field, which expands your business. I mean, granted, there are other more personal reasons to do this, but you do have to look at it as a business decision to present. There is a form online, and if you go to ATA's homepage, there will be a button in the left column that says Submit Your Proposal. You can enter your proposal and all of the details right there online, and what happens then, I guess people will ask this, is that it's reviewed. There is a deadline, as I've got here, March 11th. It will be reviewed by the conference organizer and also by committees of your peers, so people who are working in that language combination or that specialty. The conference program needs to be balanced, so we're not going to have all legal. So if we get 50 legal proposals, we are going to have to choose some and not leave the others behind. So do your best on your abstract, and we look forward to seeing you at the conference. Also, there are still it's still not too late to renew your ATA membership. It's also a good time to join. The ATA membership is a calendar year. So if you join in January or you join in June, your membership, either case, is going to expire December 31st. So it doesn't matter where you join during the year. You're going to get the 12 months January to the end of December, and that's it. So it's a great time to join because you're starting off in January, and you'll get the full year of benefits that way. At the end of today's, when you exit today's webinar, there is a small survey, and I encourage you all to evaluate, comment, and suggest. This is how we plan webinars in the future. We need your input. I read all of it. The webinar committee chair reads all of it, so please do this for us. And finally, I just want to remind you that you can find all of ATA's webinars online, and we have a large library now of on-demand webinars. So it's www.atanet.org/webinars. Once again, I want to thank all of you for attending, and I hope to see you. Oh, and the speakers for speaking, I thought they were excellent. Hope you guys did too. So I hope you'll attend some webinars in the future. With that, we're going to close out today's webinar.